media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
There it is. You're live.
Aloha, everybody, and welcome to the Divine Paradigm on... Wait a minute, this is Sacred Matrix. I had the wrong thing down. Welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin. And today we have with us Nancy Tremaine and Kevin Estrella. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Nancy and Kevin. Nancy is a lifelong experiencer, a participant in the hybrid project, and a messenger. And she was born in Detroit, Michigan, and is the middle of 5 children. Her father was a hydraulic engineer in the aerospace division of Sperry Vickers. And Kevin is a world-class musician of the instrumental rock band Pyramids, plural, on Mars. Kevin has been welcomed deep into the UFO community after having his own first-hand encounter with something not of this world. He has now begun speaking publicly and has been a featured guest on over, well, it's got to be dozens of UFO shows. Where was I? Radio talk shows. And he comes to, well, he has a show, ArtistFirst, where he introduces guests who have been on board alien craft and have had direct contact with extraterrestrial beings. So we've had Kevin on our show several times, and yesterday we had problems on another show with Skype, but hopefully we'll get through today.
He hasn't answered.
Okay. Let me click on this to get it bigger. We've got Nancy, right?
I'm here.
Nancy. Okay, great. Oh, Sasha to say something.
You're going to read the Nancy's trip first.
I did. I said that she's an experiencer. We had a very short bio for Nancy.
So what did you experience, Nancy?
Pardon me?
Nancy, hi. Welcome to the show. Hi.
So much. Yes.
We're glad to have you. We're trying to get him. I'm not sure what's going on. Thomas, he's not picking up or something? He's not even showing as being on. I will... here, let's try again.
I'm calling again. This is the second time.
Wow.
Okay.
Lit up.
While you talk, Nancy, I will text him, and maybe he's got his time zone off.
Maybe he's with those Greys.
He might have been abducted by aliens. So we'll start with you, Nancy. Welcome to our show, and you're looking great. We can see you, but the world can't. and we don't have the...
Okay. So I'm not on...
Camera on for...
I could turn the camera on.
Oh, I didn't know if it was live or I combed my hair and I didn't know. You can tell I'm nervous.
Well,
you're looking good.
You can uncomb it if you want.
Oh,
shake it up, make it messy. Anyway, no, this show's just audio, and so we're very interested in what you have to say.
We can see.
No, I'm not turning it on.
We can see you. Let's put it that way. We
can see you.
Well, I'll turn.
Okay.
Okay,
then we'll have more bandwidth. Right. Okay, excellent.
There.
Goodbye.
There we go. Now we have your cartoon of you.
Oh.
So while we're waiting for Kevin, and I'm going to text him, how about you tell us, Nancy, about yourself and your experience with the extraterrestrials and paranormal. I know you had a major sighting or something. Let's start with that, and I'm going to text Kevin and say, come on board.
Well, I'll tell you how it all started. In 1961, I had an experience, and I knew it was a sighting. I knew there were police officers there. I remembered watching the ship with several people. It was a daytime sighting. I've got it narrowed down now to a 3-day period in July of 1961, the summer. And I was inside my girlfriend's house. We were 12 years old playing, and her father screamed for us to come outside. And as we walked outside, and I always say these same words, it was like when the movie Wizard of Oz went from black and white to color.
Wow.
It was right there, right literally in front of us. And it was hovering above a tree. It was beautiful, silver. I've drawn illustrations, so they're all...
So your father started hollering, and that's what made you go out to see it. Is that right?
Cindy's father, my girlfriend's father.
So you heard him, he yelled, and you went outside.
Yeah, we knew something was up by the way he yelled. And when we out the door, there it was. And nobody said anything. It was complete silence. Complete silence. And neighbors were out. And we watched as a car was coming down Meadowbrook Road, which is the house I live on. And I would find out years later that this car coming down the road was an off-duty police officer by the name of Martin Cohn. And we couldn't figure out why this person in this car would be driving directly underneath this ship. Of course, we thought it was a flying saucer back then. That's what it was. So, and as the car got practically underneath the ship, a beam of light came from the bottom of the ship, and it was directed at the car. And we could watch as the beam grew closer and closer to the hood of the car. And when it reached the hood of the car was immobilized. It just stopped. I remember jumping up, down, doing jumping jacks, almost from maybe hysterics, or I'd like to think I was trying to draw attention away from the people or whoever was in the car. But Cindy was grabbing me and telling me to stop jumping around. And then I was...
Sorry for the call. We're trying to reach Kevin via phone because it's not picking up via Skype.
Okay, so she wanted you to quiet down.
Hi. Okay, we're in.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Hi, Kevin.
We're at the point where Nancy's telling her story, and she's jumping up and down in front of this beautiful ship that's now got a beam on the hood of the car and made it stop. And her girlfriend Cindy said, "Hey, stop jumping around." That's as far as we got.
Okay, we'll let her finish, and then we'll talk to you, Kevin. Go ahead,
and
Nancy.
Then a patrol car with 2 police officers drove up and joined us, and they exited the car and stood with us. And now neighbors are all out. Now, Novi, Michigan, where I was living at the time, was a village. It was called a village. It wasn't even a town. And it was all country. And there were houses being built. A new subdivision was being built. So everybody around, was out. And when the police got out of the car, they joined us, and they just stood there. They didn't say, nobody said anything. And I walked over to the one police officer, and I tugged on his arm, and my voice went into deep tone, and I was in slow motion, and I said, "Is this real?" Because it was more than I was able to digest. I mean, it was an overload. And
Wow.
The cop didn't say a word, not a word. He just gave a quick glance at me and was right back at the ship. Then the ship tilted on its side. And it said, I was jumping up and down. I was saying, over here, over here. and it tilted on its side, and it said, "We see you." Just those 3 words. And that's
Wow.
that's when I went into panic. The ship is alive. It's a living thing. And
It was the ship that was talking to you, yes.
Yes, it said, "We see you." And then I went hysterical. I was grabbing Cindy's father. They're going to get me. They're going to get me. I knew they were, but they didn't. Nobody heard them say that except me. And I started running home. And I don't know if Cindy's father told me or what, but it got me. But I didn't remember this. This didn't come forward until I was regressed in 2011 when I was awakened, September 1st of 2011. I found the word ufologist. Now, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a ufologist, as somebody that actually studied this. And I wrote to him and I said, I might have a story you'd be interested in. He called me immediately and he asked me to tell him. And I said, oh, I couldn't do that. I never spoke of it for 50 years, half a century, not to one person.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I had been silenced, and this didn't come forward until later also. There was a full military investigation done that night, and they came from I'm still in contact with the former police chief, Chief Lee Begall of Novi, Michigan, and he will be 97 the 4th of July. And
my goodness.
I just talked to him less than 2 months ago, and I record all of our phone calls, so I have them all recorded. And he said they came in with every intention of debunking and discrediting everyone. They didn't want to get everybody, they didn't want to instill fear, bull crap. I'm able now, like after the 3rd regression, it was like the floodgates opened, Pandora's box opened. I was able to remember everything. Well, not everything, but I remember.
What else did you remember? Was there more to it than what your conscious mind recalled?
Oh yes, I was on board that night. I was missing, and the chief. Yes, I was missing for an hour and a half to 2 hours. Cindy was on board for maybe a couple of minutes, and it was to appease me because I would not shut up. I want Cindy. I want Cindy. Don't get Cindy too. Get Cindy too. And how they got me, I have drawn illustrations of it, is a beam in the back. And I was immobilized like a cartoon character in running position with my legs and arms still in position. I was frozen. And then I was put on my back and I was in a wave. And I've drawn, it looks like I'm in water, but it's just, I felt like I was in some kind of a wave going up into the ship. And it was the most beautiful feeling I've ever felt.
Yeah, you said it was a standing waveform.
Yes, and I just learned when I was at the Alien Cosmic Expo, I was just given information about what it was. I wasn't in a standing wave. I was a standing wave. And Steve Boucher, who knows about physics, he said they actually changed or altered my molecular structure. And that's how they were able to take me up into the ship. And that's how they walked through walls and into other dimensions.
So that's almost like Star Trek teleportation technology.
I have never watched Star Trek or Star Wars. Never. The reason
never watched it. Okay.
Never would, because I got mad at anybody that would make fun of or make jokes of something that I knew was real. Yes. Never watched. I did, however, watch Close Encounters, and that was before I was awakened, and that really hit home. That really affected me. So this new information that I was a standing wave is just brand new. I just learned that at the Alien Cosmic Expo from Steve Boucher.
Well, that makes sense based on what the reports I'm getting. So you were changed into this wave and you were beamed on board. I've had this happen, by the way, so I understand this completely.
Okay.
So tell me what you encountered on the ship that you called us under hypnosis.
Second I got on the ship, I ran. I saw the what I presumed to be the pilot. I knew he flew this thing, or he was a pilot, and he was in human form. And I ran right past him because I was excited, because inside the ship, I realized that the red, green, and white lights that I'd seen from the outside that were pulsating or rotating were nothing more than windows that ran the entire circumference of the ship. And they were so high that I was only 12. I stood on my tiptoes to see out the window. And when I looked out the window, I could see Cindy's father, and I was waving. "I'm up here, Mr. Lutz." There was no one else. There was no police. There was no Cindy. There were no neighbors. Where was everybody? The only person there was Cindy's father.
Only one person was there, and that was her father. He was on the ground, but moments before you had been on the ground, and everybody was there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, everybody had been there.
Was the car still there?
There was nothing. There was only Mr. Lutz standing there. I drew up an illustration of it. What they do is they put illustrations in my head, and I draw them. They keep putting them in like slides.
So the police car's gone. The crowd's gone. The police car's gone. Everything but this guy, Cindy's dad.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's all I remembered at that point. Then, through another regression, I found out what had happened, and they had done a laparoscopy on me. Only 12 years old, but they told me that they wanted to see inside, and it was excruciatingly painful, so I thought. And they put a cylindrical silver rod in my right hand, and my fingers curled around it, and I remembered that there was something, they were giving me information, or something was contained within this rod, and it would be 50 years before I would know.
Wow.
And the message attached to it was, "Take this baton and run with it, be an ambassador." And I was downloaded with everything that is now coming forth. And as I was leaving the ship, I was extremely, and the Greys are the ones who did the procedures on me. And the nice one, I called her the nice one. She was the only female on board. She babied me. She helped me get dressed, and she walked me back to the pilot, and I was furious. I said, "Mr.," and that's how he got his name, Mr., and that's who I still have contact with. I said, "Mr., why did you let them hurt me?" And he said, "Your pain was perceived." And then I was furious. And
He said, "Your pain was what?" I missed that word. Your pain was what?
Perceived. In other words,
perceived. It was just perceived pain. It wasn't real pain.
It wasn't real, because
okay.
they would never have hurt me. And he tried to explain to me that perception is the way we define our reality. And he wanted me to find the positive in every perception. And that's what I'm doing with my life now. I'm trying to find the positive in every perception, although it's not easy. But
I want to slow it down right there, because you had a good look at Sir.
Mr.
Mr. What did he look like? You said he was human, but what did he look like?
He looked like anybody's father. He was just looked like anybody's father. He was non-threatening. He was.
So he was Caucasian?
Yes.
Did he have hair?
Yes, he had hair. Brown.
What color hair did he?
Brown
hair.
Probably dark brown. I don't remember. He was in human form. Although he is a reptilian, he was in human form.
Just slow down. Take a moment to look into his face. Be there.
What do you notice about his face?
Right. What color eyes does he have?
No beard, no mustache, no hair on his face. Handsome. Built like my dad, thin. I would remember if he was heavy or overweight or out of shape.
Uh-huh.
He was, I was 12 years old, but he looked like he was a handsome man to me.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember his eyes? What color eyes did he have?
I honestly do not remember the color of his eyes, but I will tell you that if they were blue, I probably would have remembered that, because I'm always attracted to blue eyes. So I think that would have stood out to me, because anybody I meet that has blue eyes, that stands out.
Was he tall or short, or you have any idea what height?
He looked, I'm just going to say 5'10", but just an average, anybody's father, but handsome, clean cut.
What was he wearing?
I want to say blue, but I don't know if you'd call it a uniform or a costume or what you would call it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't give you any more than that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. So you were told later that this was the rod was the download of the information you need to become an ambassador.
50 years.
In 50 years.
Yeah, it all made sense.
And what year was this again? Did you tell? Oh, this was in 61, right?
That happened in 61, and then in September of 2011 is when I met Dr. Harry Wellness, the former state director of MUFON, and he was the first person. He was very, I don't want to say old. Well, he was retired for quite a while at that point. When I wrote to him and told him I might have a story he'd be interested in, because he still follows what's going on. And I'd never heard that word, ufologist. And he said, let's meet. I'm going to bring some books and some pictures I want you to look at. So we met a couple days later, or maybe the next day. And he was armed with all of these books and pictures of aliens. And he said, I want you to look at these alien pictures and tell me if anything rings a bell. And I looked at them, and there was nothing. I had buried it so far in my head that nothing rang a bell.
Wow.
They just, no. And
I'm looking at this one illustration that I found. If you have time later, send me what you have.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the illustration. But I'm looking at this ship you have over the treetop and
Zapping the car.
Zapping the car.
Yes.
Is that pretty? What do I want to say? Are the sizes relative? Is that how large it was and how close it was?
Exactly. It was about the size of my ranch home and twice as tall. And it was close. And when people ask me how many feet, well, there was a direct view from my front door to Cindy's front door, and this ship was right in between our homes in this little area with this tree. And it hovered right there above that tree, and I could see that tree from my bedroom window perfectly, because that night in 61, I stared out my bedroom window and kept saying, please come back and get me. Please come back and get me.
So did you talk, what did you and Cindy, did you communicate about this? What did she say to you?
Wait, hold on, Nat. I just want to say that this drawing you have and the scale, the same thing happened to me in 1966.
Oh, wow.
The craft about the same scale was above my best friend's house, Patty, and I was 12 years old in 66.
Wow.
So I'm wondering if I have a similar experience. I need to do a regression on this one, because you're saying you were taken on board the craft and they looked at your, they gave you a laparoscopy. Yeah. And so.
Which there were.
They want your eggs. That's what they want.
Yeah, it was something about 12. Okay, so now, say what you want to say, and then Sasha has a question. Sorry I took the ball, honey, but...
Oh, I forgot.
Go ahead.
What it was. You'll have to remind me. I forgot where it was.
Okay, Sasha, ask your question. So you were up on the ship, and you looked down, and there was only Cindy's father, and nobody was around, and they gave you the little rod. They said you'd be an ambassador in 50 years. Did you ever find out what was going on, that everybody was gone? Did they take you through time, and maybe he was the only one that stayed and everybody else went home?
And did you talk to Cindy about it?
Right. Go ahead.
Cindy and I never spoke of it for 50 years. I tried to speak to her about it, and as soon as I would, she would put her hand, and her whole body, she just died. She drank herself to death. She was a hardcore alcoholic from a young age, from a young teenage age. She died 2 summers ago, August 2nd, 2015. But she did have a regression with my regression therapist in my apartment on the same couch that I had all my regressions. And her regression pretty much mirrored mine. What she did say when we talked is I said, "Where did I tell you I had been when you first saw me?" And she said without 1 second of hesitation, "In outer space." Now, those are certainly the words of a 12-year-old child.
Yeah.
Right.
And during
Wow, that's it. You've got a corroborating witness. That's great.
Yes, I've got her regression, and she was so upset that she was only on board for a couple of minutes, and she remembers seeing me naked, having them doing stuff to me in my stomach. She said they're doing stuff to her, and she said, "But I'm not scared because I'm in the tube." Well, and I've drawn the picture of her inside of this cylindrical acrylic-looking tube, and I was comforted having her there. And she said, "I'm not afraid because I'm safe in this tube." And she said, "But what if they take me out of this tube and they do to me what they're doing to her?" And then she said, near the end of the regression, she said, "It's okay. Nancy said it's okay for me to leave. They're not going to hurt her. They're not going to hurt her." So,
Wow.
yes, they told her that, and I knew them. I must have known them well enough at that point that they weren't going to hurt me, and I told her it was okay, she could leave. So, and I've had that's why the name of my book is Symbiosis, I've had a symbiotic relationship with Mr. Since 2011, well, all my life. My earliest...
Right, that's what I was getting. So did you discover that was, you had been previously on board ship, or you've had this maybe even multi incarnations?
Yes.
But
I signed up. I signed up for this, and I remembered the earliest I remember in this body that I'm in was I was about 3 years old when I was with Mr. And I saw him in reptilian form, and that's the only time I ever remember seeing him in that form, and that's why we know we are beyond that. He doesn't have to show me that form. The last time I was with him, he was the size and shape that he is, with no features, and he is light knowledge energy. And
So let me just ask you a set of questions, because you keep saying he, and I know that Stuart Swerdlow and others say that a lot of the reptilians are androgynous and only some are gendered. And so I guess, what did he look like when he was in his reptilian form?
Oh, he's all man. About 8 foot tall, greenish brown scales, grayish claws. His feet looked like alligator feet, and he had a heavy tail, and I've drawn a picture of him. I can send that to you too. Heavy tail that rested on the floor, but he just raised it up.
Was one of his? Did he have an opposable digit on his hands?
He had three fingers with the webbing, and then a thumb.
Ah, thank you.
Yes. He just radiated love, and people say that their eyes are yellow, and his eyes weren't yellow, they were amber. They were golden amber, and he just radiated love, benevolence, goodness. And he knew I didn't like the scales, and I remember I was just 3 years old or so, and his scales so bothered me that I wanted to reach up and scratch them off, like I could scratch them off of his face. So, wow.
Well, I have a lifelong relationship with a reptilian who's very loving. When I was a young child, starting at about 4 or 5, I would see him in the backyard coming through a portal. And there was a period where I was afraid of him when I was like it was always frustrating for me because I'd be afraid of him and not understand what it was about. But years later, I got clarity on it when I did hypnosis. But that was when he came down to the earth and tried to encounter me in my kind of like Earth mentality, right? You come down into your human form and you become a human and you become a little girl and you're just going through your day as a little girl, and then suddenly, I think it was that they were trying to experiment. What happens if we come to her in the middle of the day when she's not expecting it? But you were on board ship and you saw him in his original form, correct?
Well, when I saw him in that original form, we were outside. I mean, this is weird. They were doing a test with me, and I called it the fear challenge. He was trying, the reptilians, he was trying to find out, see, they don't have fear. That's an emotion that he doesn't feel. So I was shown three different, a cement pond. It sounds terrible. And it was divided into three sections, and it had three very frightening looking sea creatures in it. And I was asked and told that I had to swim across it. And I knew if I did, I didn't know how to swim, first of all, and I knew if I did, I would be eaten by one of these creatures. One of them looked like an eely snake, and one was a scaly, fat, whiskery-looking awful thing, and another one was the only one that wasn't gray. It actually had color. It was orange, and it was humongous, but it was orange, and it had color, so it kind of reminded me of goldfish. So I did it on goldfish, the orange one on the and
All right, you're
Okay,
back.
good.
You're
Just
back
tight.
live again. Sorry, I'm gonna have to make some noise calling.
Okay. Go ahead. What were you? Well, where were we?
Yeah, well, I want to find out how whether you yourself are a hybrid and how you found that out.
If I don't know, to be honest with you. I think I probably am. If I volunteered for this, and I've been with Mr. many lifetimes, I believe, that would make me a hybrid. I've never said that before. Just now, this is the first time I ever said that, so I don't know.
Thank you.
Well, there are many people that are hybrid in their physical form, and as their soul essence, they might be. Their primary soul essence could be, like, for example, human, reptoid, and mantis or something, or human, reptoid, and gray. So,
Hello.
There's different ways of being hybrid. Hi, Kevin. We're still, thank you for your patience. We're still listening to the story to get the initial background.
go ahead.
So, go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, well, that was the experience I had when I was 3 with Mr. And then the 61, and then since 2011, it has just been a roller coaster ride. I've never kept a diary or anything, but I was programmed when I was awakened, September 1st, 2011, to keep track of record all phone calls, draw all the illustrations they put in my head. I've got videos, pictures when I was pregnant. I've got my stomach, the pregnant stomach. In fact, I sent them to Kevin. I think I sent Kevin all the pictures, well, a lot of them, that are in the book. I'm still drawing.
It sounds like they chose you because you have drawing skills.
No, you saw my drawing.
I think they really show stuff.
Right, they do. Now, you said you were pregnant.
Yes,
when were you pregnant? What year?
When I was 62 years old, and he was taken April 15th of 2012, and I got pregnant in the end of January. And they have a sense of humor. They really do have a sense of humor. Just the date, April 15th, But I can feel Mr.'s humor sometimes when I ask him questions. He can't believe that I actually asked him a question, and I can feel his humor. I'm his muse.
So you're 62 years old.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're postmenopausal.
Oh, I went through my change of life. I was lucky. I was in my 39, 40. I went through my change, And I had a
Right.
duplication, so I couldn't get pregnant, but yet I did.
So how did you know you were pregnant at 62?
Okay, I'll tell you
Have you
exactly.
seen the pictures of her stomach?
Yeah, show
Well,
Oh,
I know, but
she was pregnant.
What's
what other symptoms did you have? I mean,
Well,
'cause
I was in bed with the guy I was dating, and we were having sex. And during sex, came out of my mouth, and I'm embarrassed. I said, "I'm pregnant, and it's a boy," just like that. And nope, I'm pregnant, and it's a boy.
Well,
So,
that's a mood killer.
yeah. Well, I
at
asked him.
62.
Yeah, at 62, and I asked him afterwards, "Did you hear me say that?" And he said, "No." Well, he was too busy.
So they did they take the, how far along did you go in your pregnancy?
I was
Like
about
how many
2.5
months?
to 3 months pregnant, but I'm very tiny. Kevin will tell you, I'm like 105 pounds, and my stomach was humongous. And
Did your body the other changes like the tubercles of Montgomery and nausea and stuff like that?
I had morning sickness that lasted for 24 hours. And I said it's funny because when I was pregnant with my human daughter, I had morning sickness for like 6 weeks or longer. But it was just a 24-hour period of morning sickness, solid.
Uh-huh.
And
And then they took it after 3 months, you're saying?
yes, I woke up and I was empty. I felt empty. And asked them, I asked them how they got me pregnant, and they put an image in my head. And the image was of a large bowl with a spoon stirring. And I took that to mean that Drax, that's my son's name, was a combination of me, Mr., and the man that I was with.
Oh, okay.
Did you have an emotional reaction to being pregnant and then not being pregnant?
Not as much as you would expect. Yes, yes, but I knew he was never mine. I always knew that this baby was not mine. And they gave me the word. This is really weird. They told me that they had claimed him. I said, "Why did you take the baby?" And they said, "We claimed him." Now I know what the word claimed means, but I wanted to go in the dictionary and find all the different definitions for the word. And what they were trying to tell me was that was their property. He was theirs.
Yeah. So they basically artificially inseminated you with a mixture of the 3 primary DNAs, yours, your boyfriend's, and the reptilian DNA of Mr., correct? Did I get that right?
No, wait. Okay, wait a minute. Janet is assuming that it was artificial insemination. Did you make love with any of those guys?
No. This was when I would have sex with, and I call him Sid in the book. Sid is an acronym for someone I dated. Mr. was actually able to enter Sid's body. And when I was having sex many times with Sid, I could feel that I was having sex with Mr. And Mr. was studying the that's another thing, is the sexual pleasure. They had amped me up to an unbelievable degree, but we won't talk about that. But it unbelievable.
You have to read the book. The chapter is called 50 Shades of Zeta Gray.
I want to read it. I will get a copy. But my question is, so you were no longer ovulating, so you weren't producing, or you had no more eggs left. So that's why I'm assuming it was some kind of artificial insemination. If you're postmenopausal in normal science, have no more eggs. So there had to be some kind of intervention if you,
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
So what happened? How did you get an egg to get pregnant? That's what I'm asking.
I would love
he's in there making love with you. You have 2 men making love with you at once. So that'd be amazing. So, but you're postmenopausal. So
yes.
Did they explain to you how you did this?
Pardon me?
how did you get pregnant if you were no longer producing eggs, unless perhaps I'm guessing or making it up or imagining that they may already had some eggs harvested and they were able to.
Oh, that would work.
Oh, they know.
Go ahead. What?
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. I don't know how they did it. I'd love to know, and maybe I'll get the answer. Sometimes I ask them a question and I don't get the answer. Well, look, it took me 50 years to get the answer to the standing wave. So, they give the answers when they want to. They keep telling me I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. So, they also told me about my son and what he was. And I have drawn a picture of him also, and they told me that he is a gentle love. When I was first shown him on board, it's just so long. I have a daughter also. Her name is Faylene. I didn't know I had her until I was on board ship, and I realized that she was my daughter. And she was handing me Drax, and Drax was in a blanket. And although I couldn't see him through the blanket, I knew that his head was large and misshapen, and his back was hunched. And I was upset. I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't hold him. And I felt horrible after that. And I cried, and I said, please, let me see him again. I promise I won't act like that. And Mr. jumped in, and he said, Drax is exactly the way he is meant to be. He is a gentle and loving being. He is a thinker. And a thinker, they put quotes around the word thinker. It is a group of several different species or beings that they are creating. And he said, Drax will make many wise decisions in his life, as he is a judge of sorts, and all societies need judges. You can see that message was locked in my head sometimes when I regurgitated.
Wow.
They locked things in.
I'd like to, one of the things that we know from the records that the Anunnaki, the tall whites, left us, is that their males don't have foreskins the way that the hybrids that the Anunnaki made with Bigfoot genes do. And so I ask about your baby. Did the baby boy have or lack a foreskin?
I don't remember ever seeing his penis.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Although I did breastfeed him, I did bond with him, and I breastfed him.
Did he look human or reptilian or combination? What did he look like?
Yeah.
Well, Kevin's got a picture of him. He looks kind of like a gray, with a very large, misshapen head, and his eyes. I think he had goggles on. His eyes, they're so blue. They're black. They're blue-black.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to remember. Did he have claws?
He had on little boots. He came in the snow. I have the videos of there's a video actually on YouTube.
Send me the links to all this, because I made a show page, and as much as you can send, this would be great. And I need to have the information on your book, so we'll have this archived and keep sending people to your book, and hopefully they'll buy your book. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah,
there's a video on YouTube of it was a tracker. They actually got to take a look at these tracks that were in Nancy's backyard in the winter, and they looked like unlike any animal. They were circular, basically, almost like hooves. Mm-hmm. I've never seen anything like them, but kind of like imagine a circular. That's a hoof with just like a line in between. Unlike, and the guy said, hey, I've never seen any tracks like this ever, and they went right up to Nancy's bedroom window in the snow.
Wow, that's great.
So, I guess the message that implicit in the relationship that you have with Mr. is that we can live in peace and harmony and get along and even be lovers. We don't have to fear all the reptilians automatically, but we have the possibility of synergizing.
Yes, yeah. I've got a very loving relationship with him, just beautiful, and welcome him. Yeah.
And I had the
So
most amazing relationship with the Alpha Draconian at the ACE that we'll talk about.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about all that. I realize we're taking up most of the first hour with Nancy's story, so thank you for your patience, Kevin. And that's Kevin Estrella, listeners, and we will talk to Kevin as well. I just have a million questions, but maybe we'll put a bookmark on this one. The one last question I wanted to talk about this thing, Nancy, and we will have you back and on other shows because this is absolutely fascinating, and I'm so glad to meet you because there's a lot of experiencers that are coming out, and I think there's this grand awakening coming because for a while there I thought I was the only lifelong experiencer that had all these different types of encounters like you have, and I felt kind of lonely. There were other people that saw lights, and they might have met the Greys, but you've met the reptilians, and I too have always thought that they were demonized and it wasn't fair. It's like, if the only human you met was Hitler or something, you might think all humans were Hitler.
They were here first.
Yeah.
Lemuria was here and settled way before Atlantis.
I'm close to my kind. But what I wanted to, one final question on this, and then we'll talk to Kevin a few before the break, was did they ever tell you the reason why they had this full-on sighting with all these witnesses? Was that an attempt for coming out and disclosing their presence? Because they could have easily done this without anybody knowing. That seemed to be a public display. Did you ever get any reasons or logic behind them doing such an exhibition?
No. I still don't understand it. And it's only been the last year or so that the chief has been acknowledging that the military had come in, and every time we speak he gives me a little more information. He was at the police station and he sent the two officers out. There's so much to it. It's too much to tell in a I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. You know what I mean?
Well, that's okay. We'll have you back again, and it's okay to repeat ourselves. We have a lot of airtime. We can devote to this. This is a very important experience that needs to be deciphered and explained and explored. And I think this is intentional contact. And Mister, I really appreciate you coming forth and going public with through Nancy and your ongoing what do you call it, relationship with Nancy. Kevin, do you want to check in with us before the first hour, which we have about 5 minutes, I guess, or 4 minutes? Hi, Kevin.
Well, actually, hi. There's one more thing, Nancy. You forgot to tell them about the other beings that were on board the ship.
Well, you're talking about a different? Are you talking about the angelic beings?
Yes.
That was in 2015. Now, the beings in 61 were just the Greys, the nice one, and Mister. Yeah, but you're talking about the angelic beings, and we'll do that another time because that's the whole.
Oh yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
But
so Kevin, how did you and Nancy meet?
Oh, we are like many people I meet. Grant Cameron purposely introduced me to Nancy, and then she and I, Skyped together, and she told me her story, and it was just awesome. I said, I asked her, will you please be on my show? And she said, yeah. So I encouraged her, and then I went and listened to a whole bunch of other interviews that she had done to get more familiar with her story. But Nancy and I we have quite the relationship that's just kind of blossomed in the last year, and then something absolutely incredible happened a few weeks ago that involved Nancy, and it was just meant to be. It was the biggest synchronicity of my life that took place, and Nancy was if it weren't for her, it would never happened.
We'll start telling us, and then we'll get interrupted, which will be cool. We left hanging for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back. Begin to tell us about what happened. What's
the event?
The event.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. I can do it in 5 minutes. So basically, I get this email from Nancy several weeks ago that she said, "Kevin, I need your help. You're not going to believe this, but I received a phone call from an ET, and he gave me a series of numbers. And she had a witness as well who was there as well, so an attorney friend of hers. And the first sequence of numbers actually ended up being like whatever the number, like it was an IP address to like some guy in NASA or something like that. And I can't remember the details. But then there was a second set of numbers that actually ended up coinciding to some kind of like website or some kind of technology.
The human gene ID, the second step for the human
Yes.
gene.
Okay. Yeah. And then the third set of numbers, Nancy didn't know what they were, but she came to me asking if I, could help her, if I knew anybody who might be able to help her. And I immediately had this kind of telepathic feeling that I should be contacting Jenna Orion, who's an experiencer who I met a few months before, and I'm reading her book called The Legend of the Nine, and she's been, in touch with benevolent beings who, are Nordic-looking. But the cool thing with Jenna Orion is that she and I actually had telepathic communication, about 6 weeks ago, and I documented the whole thing on Facebook. So she and I Jenna and I have this connection. So I felt, okay, I'm sending this to Jenna because reading her book, she's had familiar cases they're very similar to what was happening with Nancy with these numbers and downloads. And so I sent it to Jenna. And then it was June 1st, I get an email from Jenna Orion saying that I've received... Oh.
So hold that thought. June 1st, the email, Jenna Orion. And we will be back in about 5 minutes,
Okay.
listeners. Join us in 5. Aloha and welcome back, everybody. You are listening to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com with your host, myself, Janet Carol Lessin, and my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. And today we have guests Nancy Tremaine and Kevin Estrella, and our producer is Thomas Becker. But before we get back to our show, and we left it at a cliffhanger, I would like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on freedomslips.com, freedomslips.com. I can't talk today. My tongue is not working. That's okay. And donate what you can, $1, $5, $15, $20, $100, whatever you can donate is greatly appreciated, and we do thank you very much for your donation. A Mad Painter, Thomas Becker, how are we doing with the donations this month? It's a brand new month.
We got $200 already. I think that's pretty good on the second.
Yeah, pretty good start.
We could keep that up. We got it made. So
we
please
got
donate.
it made in shape. Gonna do great this month. Sasha, what would you like to say before we bring back? We're going to bring back Kevin. He's going to finish his sentence.
So what we are looking at is a phenomenon of people that are conscious of their mission, and their mission is peaceful and reassuring and offering us hope. So that's where I've gotten with what we've been doing so far.
So, Kevin, we cut you off mid-sentence, and you were saying that you were talking to Jenna O'Ryan, and you received some kind of communications.
Oh, yeah, that they deepened your relationship with each other. That
yes,
was it.
Back to your story.
Yeah, basically the story I'm telling is about the deep relationship that Nancy and I have, and it just keeps, it becomes more and more metaphysical, that she and I still don't completely understand, but it's just amazing how the universe points you in certain directions. And Nancy has amazing abilities that she's coming out of, or that she's coming into on her own, and her journey is still continuing, and she's blossoming like crazy now. So what happened was, so she comes, she gets this call from this ET giving her this strange information, and then she comes to me asking for my help, if I know anybody who can help her with the last sequence of numbers. And so I have this telepathic feeling that I should be contacting Jenna O'Ryan, because from reading Jenna's book, Legend of the Nine, that she has very similar experiences in this type of thing. So I sent it to Jenna O'Ryan. And then it was June 1st that I received an email from Jenna. And the email stated that, Kevin, I received your email, and I got I got the numbers and stuff. I'm gonna look into it and see what I can find. And so then I decided, to send a confirmation to Nancy that Jenna has the email and she's working on it. And so I send off the email. The next day, I got a message from Nancy, and it says, Kevin, did you see the time that you sent your email yesterday? And I looked, I had no idea what she was talking about. She said, you sent it at 4:44 p.m. the first day of the month. My ET call, the ET phone call, came at 4:44 p.m. the first day of the month, January. Not a coincidence. That was the most massive synchronicity I have ever seen. I decided to do the statistics on it. The chances of that, to send the same email, send an email the same minute of the same day of the same month, is 1 in 44,740. So 1 in 44,740. But then Nancy emails me again and says, Kevin, the message 444, do you know what that means? I'm like, no. And she says, it's an angelic number. Go look it up. So I'm like, oh. So I go look it up, and it's very specific in regards to what 444 means. It means that I, myself, am in perfect harmonization and synchronicity with the universe, and that all the decisions that I'm making are of a much higher metaphysical, realm, and the angels are in praise of my of my doings and my abilities, and that I have one foot in the fourth dimension. Now, what is significant about that decision, about what happened there, was because 2 days prior to receiving this message, I made the most difficult decision in my entire life that affects my family. Basically, my wife and I are getting separated, but I made that decision 2 days before. So here it is. The angels were blessing my decision of what I had decided to do, because it's what is necessary in order for me to complete my mission.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. So then this led to, when did you finally meet each other in person, face to face?
That was the Alien Cosmic Expo the past weekend.
That was just, what was June 20?
Last weekend. Okay. Yeah, 23rd.
And so tell us what happened.
Oh my God.
I know there was a bunch of stuff.
Oh my God. Where should we start?
What happened? Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we should start with Friday and what transpired on Friday, because it's very important. So I get to it. Friday is the Experiencers Day, okay? So all the experiencers get the chance to speak, and they had a whole bunch of experiencers who were going up. Now, I immediately, when I get to the Alien Cosmic Expo, I run into Campbell Foster, who he was actually my radio guest last month. Just we were prior to the Alien Cosmic Expo, because he was one of the presenters, and he builds these pyramids that you can actually meditate in. Okay, they're called Pyramidion, and we decided, I decided to do a healing with him, and I swear to God, when I got into this pyramid, I immediately felt his power. Like, I'm a very sensitive, experiencer, like Starseed, and I immediately felt its power, and so I'm in a state of mind. And Campbell could feel the energy too, and he stood inside the pyramid and he could feel it. We were getting these time distortions too, because he would hold a timer inside the pyramid and outside of the pyramid, and there was something going on there. It was really strange. But he did a chakra alignment with me, and I could just feel from the top of the pyramid almost like a waterfall that was coming right down through it, right down through all my chakras, and then kind of just spilling out on the floor and spreading across the floor. I could feel this energy flow. What was even really cool about it was he gave me this crystal ball, and he said people often can see things in it. And so I'm looking at this crystal ball, and I swear to God, I had 3 different zetas appear inside it, and we were just having this moment together. It was incredible, because I was kind of looking through it, not staring at the ball, but I was looking kind of through it. It's kind of the same thing like you do with those 3D images. Like if you look at a certain distance past the image, you'll have a 3D image, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So I was doing the same thing, and as I was doing this, I had 3 different zeta faces that appear within a matter of 5 minutes, and we're just having this amazing moment together. We're just kind of staring at each other, but the energy got so intense that I had to get pulled out of this pyramid because it was just way too intense. And so Campbell kind of pulled me out, and I'm really dizzy. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go and check out who the speakers were. Now, this is significant to what happened when I went to go see the speakers, because when I'm sitting there listening to the speakers, my energy was clearing and clearing, and my chakras were so lined, my energy field was just absolutely incredible, and I could feel it. And then this MUFON guy, Ryan, comes on and does a presentation. And, I give MUFON, I'm not going to say anything bad about MUFON, but sometimes their understandings, sometimes their understandings of things are at a lower vibration. Okay, I'll just kind of put it that way. And it's kind of like kindergarten, you have to kind of go back a bit, so trying to understand from their point of view, because they're trying to understand stuff and they just don't get the metaphysical portion of it. And so he showing us doing this case regarding this woman and a daughter who had these abduction experiences and all these different things that were going on. And then Ryan, this MUFON guy, had asked the daughter for drawings that she had drawn, because she had drawn a whole bunch of different drawings. And then he says, you have to be careful about what you ask for. Look what she drew. And then he puts up this picture, and I immediately knew what it was. It was a red draconian with wings. You know, it was a reptilian, but it had wings. And I kind of immediately recognized it as a draconian. Why? I don't know, because I'm not really that familiar with draconians, but something was telling me that's a draconian, and he's being very rude, because then he was starting to portray, showing this picture and calling it like a nightmare, and then he was showing these gargoyles and stuff like that. It was kind of it was rude, and I held this energy inside me, like I really wanted to say something. Like, you can't speak about him like that. It's not right. And then he went and started doing more of his presentation and did different things. And then after about 10 minutes, he kind of came back and he started talking about angels and then devils. And then he kind of had a picture of an angel with a devil, kind of next to each other. And then he referred back to the reptilian drawing that the girl had drawn. And once again, it was just like, okay, this is completely not fair. And something was coming inside me. And without words, it must have been telepathic. It was basically, okay, Kevin, if you're not going to say anything, I will. And then he came through, and my hand went up. And all I'm going to describe for the experience of what actually transpired. The only thing I can describe it like, it's like, that moment just before you're about to throw up. That point of no return.
Right.
Yeah, it's that half a second just before your stomach, goes and and it's coming up. It's that moment where there is that point of no return where you're about to throw up. That's exactly what it felt like. It was basically, whoa, and then my hand goes up and I'm talking to the guy saying, excuse me, and then as I'm talking to him, my voice dropped really low. Like really low, like I've never heard it before, and I'm talking to him in this almost like a military voice, and I'm being very specific in regards to my words, saying you cannot call this black and white. You can't call this black. You can't call this white. You have to be very careful about how you interpret things. I pointed to the picture and said, "This is a alpha draconian, Sauron. Okay, these are my people. You need to be respectful of our differences. You cannot judge someone on how they appear. It's not good for relations, and you're being judgmental." And they said, "You have to be careful because there are many of us in the room, and we are listening." And another thing about this was that when I was speaking, I was only consciously about 25% there. It was 75%. This draconian who came through me, and I felt different. My back felt huge, like it was like my shoulder blades were wide, and I could feel wings on my back. I could feel his body, and his body felt incredible. Like, these human bodies suck. Honestly, this guy was benevolent. Like, he felt huge, and he's talking to this guy in this low voice. And then after I finished speaking, the guy, the MUFON guy, just shut his presentation right there in the spot. It's like, okay, that's it for me. I'm done. See ya. And he just dropped like a stone. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm kind of coming back, and there was like 12 people had just all of a sudden just walked up and surrounded me, saying, "What happened? That was amazing!" And they were shaking, It's like, and I didn't know what had happened. Well, I kind of knew what happened. I mean, I realized I thought it was channeling, but for talking to the Sandia, I talked to Judy and Tilcom and them, and they said I was actually more of a telepathic translator for what took place. And they kind of think that it was a draconian who's already on the planet right now, because all these delegates are flying in for official first contact, and all these meetings are going on.
Did your physical form remain the same or change when the draconian voice came from you? Was your breathing and stance or body feeling different? What was that like?
My body felt different. I immediately felt my shoulders across my entire back felt huge, like wide, and I felt right between my shoulder blades. I could feel something, and I realized it was wings. I could feel these wings on my back. That's what I could feel. It felt like, and my whole back felt like electricity. It felt so amazing, so incredible, the power of this being. Because as the San Diego group explained, because telepathy travels on an emotional wave, not only did he come through, but I got to experience what it feels like to be him, and it felt incredible. Absolutely incredible. But the other thing is, just to let you know, that people who know me, like Grant Cameron was there seeing the presentation, Joanne Eady, who runs the ACE. Grant, when the person next to him was saying, I think it's Kevin speaking, and Grant was like, that's not Kevin speaking. That's not him. I don't know who that is. And Grant didn't even recognize it was me.
It's very interesting how you describe that, because I had a time when a full-on dragon came through. And boy, I thought I sounded really weird. I was saying, he came through me, and it isn't like a possession or you're not channeling, it's translation, right?
Give us an imitation. What did it sound like, Janet?
I think you asked who's here, and then I really struggled to get this out through my vocal cords, because there was no way to really do his true sound. It was a male, but he said, I am dragon. Something like that.
But deeper.
Very deep. Well, as deep as my vocal cords can go, but you have a male human form, so you probably could have done it much better justice than I could.
But no one recognized it as Kevin's voice. It was something different.
No. In fact, Joanne Eady.
I could feel his wings, and he was flying. And it's like, where are you? And he was in space. He says that space is his environment. He doesn't require oxygen. It's his natural environment was space. So anyway, back to your story. So you had this, but you can feel what it's like to be in that form. I could feel what it was like to be in that form, and he was flying and flapping these gigantic wings, it was like in slow motion. But go back to, so you had this experience, and Grant said, that's not Kevin. I know Kevin's voice.
Grant said, that's not Kevin speaking. I don't know who that is. You can imagine Grant saying that. And then when Joanne Eady got up on stage and to say something, and she looked at me and says, Kevin, I don't know who that was who was speaking through you. I'm like, well. Now, the cool thing was that.
Did anybody get a recording of that?
I believe, yes. I think it was recorded from the back. I think it is recorded, because I would love to hear it. I really would. But
whoever
what was cool
got
was
the recording, contact us. We'd love to get a clip of that.
Yeah. And the cool thing was, like, when I got to work on Monday, I still felt close to him, and I allowed him to actually come through on Monday, and he was incredible. Like, I think he just literally wanted to stretch his wings. So, and I felt my back big, and I felt the wings on my back, and my voice was changing, and I just felt this incredible energy, and I was kind of like, my head was kind of going back and forth like a dragon. And but the thing was is that I had to make phone calls and be on the phone, and it was the Draconian who was making the phone calls, and I had to politely say, look, you got to back off a bit, okay? I know you're enjoying this, because he actually did take a little bit more liberty to really be in my body. Like, oh, he's gonna be a permission, okay, I'm gonna hang around here, and I'm like, okay, please, just back off a bit, okay? Don't possess me. And so he consciously backed off, but he allowed me to wear his wings for the rest of the morning. For about 2 hours, I felt these wings on my back. I'm going to the washroom, and I'm looking at the people there thinking, you have no idea who's standing next to you right now, man. It feels so awesome.
That's amazing. And then you had another episode, or maybe there were more.
So how did that affect your relationship with Nancy?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to go to the second story because you and Nancy were together. But yeah, go ahead. How did that affect your relationship with Nancy? With this,
you're saying that the events of this conference it allowed you to get really deep with each other, and I'm not getting quite how this ties up.
Oh, because she and I we spent a lot of time together on that weekend, and she and I went to lunch together, and we were talking more about experiences, and because she and I have this relationship with reptilians, both of us. The other portion is that I'm not sure if I told you guys. I discovered through Elizabeth April that I actually was a reptilian in a past life in ancient Egypt, and I had a very important role. So I already knew that I already have that I am a reptilian, and it was funny.
So we know Elizabeth. How did she know about your past life? Where you were
Elizabeth April, because she's a channeler.
Yeah. Okay, so she channeled this information about your past life.
She channeled this information. She shared with me what I was doing back in ancient Egypt, and I was actually a reptilian general. And I ended up giving permission for programs to be put in place to help the relationships between the reptilians and the humans, because at that point in Egypt, the humans were treated more like slaves. So I was kind of in a process of learning myself to respect have more respect for other beings that are not reptilian. So that was kind of one of my lessons learned during that point in time.
So what made you come back as a human this time, Kevin?
Because I'm here to complete the work that I've been cycled to do. That all beings deserve respect. All beings are loving, and to not be judgmental of any beings, and to raise in consciousness and always have unconditional love in your heart for everyone.
Wow, right on.
Yeah, I've always thought that the reptilians were getting a bad rap and they're getting demonized, and of course there are probably some good reptilians and bad reptilians, but to demonize, it's almost like the ultimate racism. And how we got to stop doing this.
Well, what Squirdo says is goes even beyond. I'm sorry, interrupting you.
No, that's okay.
What Stuart Squirdo is saying, that it goes beyond that. If you go back to the history, that the reptilians in this inner solar system and under the Earth were breakaway. They weren't part of the Draco Empire at all, and they were part of the contributors in the Council of Watona, where our brainstem is mainly their genetics, and they have been here from the get-go, trying to work it out with their fierce enemies, the Atlans and others. And I think we're ready for ambassadors like you both have been singled out as to help this happen, because this is what's happening, and it's our hope to save the planet.
Yes. Yeah, we're not gonna be able to do it if we still hold racism against other beings and judging them on their appearances and sort of like that. Yes, there are good and bad in every type of race, but you cannot demonize and be prejudiced. And the reptilians have been always been looked upon as bad, and it's unfair. It really is unfair. And I know that I'm kind of an ambassador and have been, because on my radio show I had Jojolie Kiyuta. She's a friend. I met her through Cynthia Crawford, and she's a reptilian hybrid. And we had her in the program. We really broke a lot of the misconceptions people have about reptilians, and also with Nancy, with her stories. And of Mr. And Nancy shared some stories at lunchtime of how Mr. actually protected her when she was in a Las Vegas trip, and her boyfriend at the time was trying to come on to her sexually, and Nancy didn't want to at the time. Mr. actually shook their entire room, their Las Vegas room, and terrified the guy. And then another point later on that night, he tried to, he was lying in bed next to Nancy and tried to make the moves on her, and Nancy didn't want it. And as Nancy put it, Mr. literally swept him off the bed with a huge broom. He went flying at the end of the bed, off the bed.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was sick. I had a terrible ear infection, and he had just taken me to the emergency room. And we got back to the hotel room, and he wants to have sex. And I said, "Are you kidding?" And we had just gone through the same crap the day before. And it was just like a giant broom. And he was literally swept right off the bed. And it scared the hell out of him.
That was Mr.
Yeah,
That was
I'd be
Mr.
scared
who did that.
too.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, the chemistry between Kevin and I is amazing. Our energies combined, things happen. And it's funny that he was just talking about how we're not supposed to judge people on their appearance. Well, that was a test that we were given while we were there.
Yeah, and we failed.
We failed miserably. We were having
Tell us about your failed experiment. Yes, go ahead.
well, we were having dinner, and Kevin mentioned something
Was it
about
dinner or was it lunch? I think it was
It
lunch.
was dinner. We already had lunch.
Oh, we had dinner. Okay.
Dinner, you
yeah,
had
and then
French. I
okay.
remember what you had.
Oh yeah, right.
I remember what you had.
Oh yeah, I had I had that amazing poutine. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nancy and I, we at lunch at dinner time, she and I both agreed that we wanted to manifest. We wanted to have an ET experience and meet someone. And we're saying this in the parking lot, walking from the restaurant back to the hotel.
And I said, I think I could even call someone in. And as I said those words, Kevin opened the door for me to walk in, like a gentleman. And there they were, standing there. And we walked right up to them. A very, very odd-looking couple. Just
they had just arrived. They had literally just arrived.
Right. And I need to shout out to, we both need to shout out to Stone Hobbit, who is a mutual friend of ours, because if it weren't for her, because it was such an unsettling experience, and I was telling her about it, and she said, "Wait a minute, there's more to this than what you're telling me." And then I realized that these were not humans that we were dealing with.
Right. So you called them in, and they're standing there, but they didn't look like you had thought aliens should look like.
No.
And you judged them.
They
Go ahead, tell the story.
They looked so out of place. I mean, they looked like they literally had just come off of a camper.
From the 70s. Yeah.
Like an RV from the 70s is what they looked like they just came out of.
So they're out of time and out of place, and they aren't dressed the way you thought they should be dressed for.
It came right from Woodstock. Okay,
from 2017, they were dressed from, Woodstock type era. Okay, not really hippies, but just from another time, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, they did.
Yes.
She was wearing pants that kind of came up to her boobs, and they looked really dated. And what was he wearing again?
He was wearing a plaid shirt and jeans, and he reminded me of Yosemite Sam.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had a very unkept.
Like on Star Trek, they said, "Okay, we've got to get some human clothes to come back come to Earth," and they punch in the wrong time frame or something, so they get 1970s clothes.
So there they were.
You go ahead. There they were.
Aliens trying to have a human.
So the guy had like a very unkept beard, and she hadn't even combed her hair.
No.
Which is really odd. And Nancy asked, was that when you asked her where they came from?
Yeah, I said, "Are you having a good time?" And she said, "We just got here. We've come a long way." And very monotone, no expressions, nothing, no purse, no jewelry, didn't comb her hair, and she didn't know where the heck she was. And he was smiling and animated and entertaining Kevin, asking Kevin all kinds of questions. And it seemed like they were dressed in Halloween costumes, It just looked like they were clean, but they were really a mess. And I remember looking at her and I was thinking, my God, woman, you didn't even take 1 second to look in the mirror before you left the house? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really strange, and I was polite because they were really excited to be there, and I was talking to him. I can't remember what we talked about, which is kind of weird. I have no idea what we talked about.
In the middle of the conversation, do you remember him taking his index finger? He was talking to Kevin up a storm, and all of a sudden he took his index finger and he pointed right at me, and he said, "What are you, 62?"
62.
And I said, "I'm 67." And he said, "Oh, well, you look good for your age." And I said, no, you can't kick me in the balls and then take it back. And Kevin said, "Yeah, that was an underhanded but
compliment."
Yeah, but 62, why did he pick that age? That's when I had my son. That's how old I was. When I was on board, he took my son. He could have named any number. And he said 62, but that stuck out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we kind of parted our ways. I can't remember exactly what Nancy and I said, but we kind of said we were going to go somewhere and do some stuff.
Yeah, we couldn't get away from him quick enough. But, she did say, I said, "Boy, those two are really talking," meaning her husband. I didn't know it was her husband at the time. And she said, "He is interested." Just like that. He is interested. She just seemed like she was just dropped out of the sky. But, yeah, we got away from him.
Yeah. And so then it was later on that evening, a couple hours later, I think it was.
Yeah.
So Nancy and I, we were looking for, our group, looking for Grant and Steve Boucher and all them at the bar. So we walk into the bar, and on the left-hand side, where the same area where I had drinks with Grant and the group before, they were these two couples were already there, and they were waiting for us and flagging us down. "Oh, there you are! Come on over, have drinks with us." And Nancy and I are looking at each other, going, "Well, we just were looking at it like, oh God, how are we going to get into this?"
Yeah, he was flailing his arms. "Come and have a drink with me and my wife," and he was standing up, and she was trying to be human again, and so she thought she was supposed to stand up, and so she halfway stood up, and then when she sat back down, her arms just hung to the side like appendages. There was just nothing to this woman.
Yeah, actually, when she stood up, which was kind of weird, she just kind of stood up for no reason, and she's kind of hunched over, like she didn't even stand straight, and she just had this expressionless look on her face. It was
And
so
If you're going
weird.
to remote view from her head, what kind of a consciousness does she have? What is she like inside?
Confused.
But yeah, she didn't know where she was. She was confused, and she was just along for the ride is what I took. Her husband had said, "Come on, we're going." But it was really odd because I wondered, when I saw them sitting there, the first thing I thought of was, I wonder what they, separating them from Kevin and myself, I wonder what they drank. Because they were that odd that I actually wondered what in the heck they would drink. But
Yeah.
Well, what did they drink?
What did they drink?
Well, I don't know. It wasn't beer, and I knew instinctively that they were not beer drinkers. But I didn't see a glass in front of her, but he had a glass in front of him. But I don't know what it was. We got the heck out of there. We were going. There's Grant over there. Hey, Grant.
We're uncomfortable around them, and
They were stalking you.
Well,
They were stalking us. They were waiting for us. They were waiting specifically for us to show up.
But they got us
and
the first
if
time.
we're in their shoes, what do you think that was about? Because you had evoked them. So they're waiting for you.
They saw our energy together. Yep. I think they saw our energy together, and we called them in, and there they were. And she, could have been doing anything.
Well, what do you want? You called us in. What do you want? Here we are.
I know.
Wow.
But then the third time, Kevin and I were sitting there with Grant and Steve Boucher and some others, and we looked up and we saw them heading towards us. And Kevin and I look at each other like, "Oh, Jesus," because we're embarrassed, which is really rude. But he comes over and he stands behind Kevin, and he's smiling away, and he slapped Kevin really hard in the center of his back, and he said, we came by to say thank you, and I don't know what he was thanking us for, and he said, we're leaving now, but we'll see you on the ship. And we both, and then he said, yes, we'll be on the ship, and he was so excited about it. And Kevin and I said, yep, like.
I said I wanted to be polite. I didn't want to be rude. I'm just thinking to myself, what the heck is he talking about? Like, who
So
says
you're thinking
that?
they're crazy or something?
I thought he was crazy.
But it was
so
until they walked away that I think we both realized something was going on. He didn't walk. He waddled. His legs went right, left, right, left, right, left. It was not a walk, like a human walk.
They were wearing avatars. It just sounds like they were doll body avatars.
Yeah. There was at that point where, like, I didn't pick it up on that, but after what Nancy called me the next day, it was like reliving it. It's like, yeah, that would make sense. Who would say, we'll see you on the ship, or I can't wait to see you back on the ship? I'm like, what the heck? I said, yeah, we'll see you on the ship.
And that night, when I went to bed with I had a roommate, a female roommate that we were sharing the cost of the room. And as I was passing out, and I think I was being shut down, I said to her, is it September 24th? And she said, honey, it's June. And I said, write it down. That sticks with me. So I've talked to her since, and she said, yes, that did happen. And you also did wake up choking and gagging. I woke up choking and gagging, and she said, are you all right? And she said, I said yes, and then I was out again. So maybe Kevin and I were on board, and we just don't know it yet, you know?
Yeah. Now, the other thing that happened was when Nancy, she contacted me the next day, it was like this MSN Messenger was going on, and I was in my car, and that's when she was telling me, piecing together what had happened, and we believed that they weren't human, that they were actually extraterrestrials contacting us, and then we were thinking about how badly we treated them, and Nancy and I were just completely ashamed of ourselves, thinking, God, think of how much what we could have learned if we actually sat down with them, and had a drink with them. This whole thing, of when my draconian came through to say stop judging people on their appearances, and what did I do? I did the exact same thing.
Well, no, that was the purpose of that. If in existentialism, we would say you arranged this to make sure that you got the teaching at a gut level and not just an intellectual level, and that you created a perfect situation for you to feel guilty about, so you can improve your performance.
You've got it. They had come to the one place that they felt that they would be accepted, and we failed miserably. It was a test, and to see if we were ready, if humanity was ready. But we judged them, and three times we judged them, just like in the Bible. We rebuked them 3 times.
But they didn't let the goldfish eat you.
So.
Oh yeah, we had that goldfish story. We'll have to finish it. But let me just say this. This reminds me of the Blue Beings from the Experiencer Speak conference a couple years ago.
Very much.
They were kind of country bumpkins, out of place.
Yeah.
They were confused. When someone tried to tell them how much it cost, they didn't understand money. They just said, "Is this enough?" And they ended up just saying, "Yeah, that's fine. Go on in. It's enough," because they obviously didn't know anything about money or they were culturally out of place. So these two were just not in tune with the cultural norms, and it made you feel uncomfortable because they weren't there, but that was your own stuff coming up. Wow, well that's a great lesson. So what are you going to do next time you meet extraterrestrials?
Well, actually, there's one more thing I wanted to share about that story, because after when I was when Nancy and I were like kind of MSN messaging each other, and I said I'm going to telepathically send out a message asking for forgiveness for what we did, and that we learned our lesson, and that we'll never ever forget about how we treated you, and we were ashamed. And then I said, privately, if you hear this message, please give us a sign. And this is what happened. So Nancy and I were talking for a bit more, and then we had to end our phone call because all of a sudden it started to hail where I was, and I had to hang up the phone. I hang up the phone, and then I look at the phone, and all I see is LOL, LOL, OMG. I'm like, what's Nancy going on about? And he says, look what time we hung up, what time our call ended. And what was it, Nancy?
Was it 5:55?
Yeah, it was 5:55.
So
I looked that up. I looked it up.
mean?
What's that?
What does 555 mean?
It means that it means basically great things are going to happen.
Yes, you're on the right path.
Yeah, you're on the right path, and great things are going to happen.
So cool.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
You can't make this up.
Yeah, and I'm not a religious person, but after that, I've been praying so many times just to be forgiven because we judged them, and they were, probably really nice beings, trying to have a human experience, and we,
Yeah. So the purpose of existential purpose of guilt is for you to improve your behavior. Anything beyond that is what we call neurotic guilt. You're just distracting yourself from your mission with it. So the whole purpose is merely for you to do better.
So how will you do better next time?
Thank you for that. Yes, we needed to hear that.
So how will you do better next time?
Well,
just you can kind of picture, pace it, and imagine they come again.
Yeah.
What would you do different?
Yeah.
Oh, we would have sat and had a drink with them. We would have invited them to sit with us at the table with Grant, right, Kevin?
Yeah, Grant felt like an idiot too. He said, "These people met up. They came up to us. Says that's it. I'm not drinking beer anymore."
Oh.
Yeah, because he wants contact, and so the three of you were gifted with this contact, and you blew it.
That's okay. Just do it without beer next time. You've got the synergy. Harmonize your fields. Ask for you're a learner and you would like to learn more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of all the things we could have learned. We could sat down and talked to them.
I know. We missed out on an opportunity.
So it's for those ideas. It's when you feel fear, like these people were stalking you and you're annoying you, and somehow that is what brings out our own reptilian, and that in everybody around. That's the fear. The mere purpose of fear on the surface is just pay attention to what needs attending to. That's all.
Yep. You're right.
That's the need. And so as soon as you're in touch with need, then the neurotic want is irrelevant.
So what did you imagine would happen if you sat with them and had the discussion?
Yeah.
Something that made you feel repulsed. What was going on? Do you have any consciousness of it right now, looking back?
Because he was asking different questions, but his questions didn't seem to come from a very deep level, but he was kind of probing me as to my opinions of things, and I was giving him very deep metaphysical understandings, like from my understanding.
Give us an example. Give us an example of a question he asked and the answer you gave.
Unfortunately, I don't have a very good memory.
Consciousness, Kevin. You were telling him something about consciousness, and he was very interested. He was hanging on to every word you said. You were talking about, something about consciousness.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I guess I was telling him about what I understand and from some of my highest levels of understanding, explaining things. So I felt like I was teaching somebody who didn't really have much of an understanding. Maybe he was just playing with me.
No, he was genuinely interested in you.
Do you recall, Nancy, what the question was? Did you ever hear any of the questions?
No, but I remember I asked her if she was an experiencer, and she didn't understand the word. And she said, I don't know what I am, just like that. Again,
Did they feel like real people with souls to you? Were they beings with souls, or were they robots?
You
What do
know,
you think?
Okay, like the guy, Yosemite Sam, he definitely felt like a real person.
yeah, he was animated and very smiling and jovial.
Definitely.
Yeah, he was having a great time. But she was just plopped there out of nowhere. I called her, I know it's terrible, I called her an amoeba, but
Did they explain what part of the world they were from? Did they say we're from Kansas, or I mean, where were they from? What part of?
She had said that they don't it sound so weird. She had said something about they wanted to get there earlier, but they'd traveled a long way.
That's
Or another
one of those
star
hints.
system,
That's
yeah.
one of those hints. They come up with the Earth place that they came
They'd
from.
come a long ways.
That's
They
all
just
we
came
got.
a
They
long
came a
way.
long way.
I wished I would have asked where.
That's right out of the movie, out of the television series.
Because I said
Whenever
it's almost over. I mean, Saturday night was almost over.
we came a long way. That's
And you're worried about her hair.
and
Oh.
it's a windy ride. What can we say? Wow. So, so you learned to be more humble and to not drink beer.
No, that was
And not-
Grant. Grant
Judge.
said that.
Yeah,
I
I
got to
didn't have
continue
any
drinking
money.
as much beer as I
I
want, but Grant decided he's got to sober up.
Right. Do you think it would help not having alcohol? Because alcohol produces a certain vibratory frequency. And was Grant onto something? By
No,
saying
we were
that,
just
or
having
you
a great.
No, I
No,
don't.
we were just having a
think
great time.
it's
It's
the
just
one-
that like
Oh.
Grant, when the being came up to me and slapped me on the back, like Grant was like, "Are those your friends?" And we're like, "Oh well, I don't know. We kind of met them." So it's like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't quite get that. When you said he slapped you kind of hard, was it like it annoyed you? You didn't like it? It was too hard?
No, it was like somebody like an old pal. Like he gave me this slap on the back like an old
Too
pal.
friendly. Too friendly for
He was
somebody that you're
emulating
trying to
human.
get away from.
Yeah, he was just emulating a human. Yeah.
He saw an old movie. Somebody did that back in the television show or movie they were watching from the 70s.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like
So-
an old friend.
We're getting to the end of the show. I want to make sure that you convey the points that you want to get across
And
to
how
our
to get your
listeners.
book. This sounds like a great book.
Yeah, so I mean, we do have another like 4 minutes or so. But back to you two. How do people reach you? What's the name of your books? Is it on Amazon, et cetera, et cetera? Go ahead.
The title of the book is Symbiosis, A Love Beyond Time and Space. And the publisher has the manuscript right now. And we're waiting for David Chase is doing the cover. And when the cover is done, then the book will be out. And
Oh, okay. So it's not out yet, but please, when you get it, please send it to me with a link, and I will put it on your page because all these shows are archived, and people visit our site all the time, and the shows go up on other media too. So
And you'll have this interview to use for your publicity. Too.
for your portfolio.
yeah.
And do you have a website, Nancy?
No, I don't yet. I'm embarrassed
Okay.
to say how little I know about the computer. I wrote my book in the Yahoo Compose. And I would send chapter by chapter to David Chase and Michael Melton, and then Michael put it into book form, or
Well, it works. That works. It's fine. However you need to do it. This
Yes.
important thing is you wrote the book. That's great.
Yes, I wrote the book. I had no problem writing. It just don't know the form. But I'm on my
Kevin, Kevin, have you written your book yet? about all your experiences?
You know what?
No?
I'm definitely going to have to write a book. The good thing is that because I am always doing radio interviews and I document all my radio interviews, all this has been captured in radio interviews and podcasts. So I'll have references to go back and be able to write my book when it finally put it out.
Great. Perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see both of your books. So, okay, we have like a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. Final words from either one of you, whoever wants to speak. What would you like to tell?
I love Nancy very much.
Oh,
yeah.
I love you. We are so lucky to have found each other. Our energy combined is going to create a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yes, you're an ET power couple.
Mm-hmm.
We are. We felt it when we got to the ACE. It was just this incredible energy. We just felt like it's a
What's the next thing you're going to do together? Are you planning anything to do together, like a appearance or anything?
I think we want to go back on a reptilian ship.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We were going to say something, Sasha, real quick.
I don't remember what I was going to say real quick.
Sorry. Okay. And then, Kevin, you have you have a website, you have music, you have all kinds of things. You take us out.
Yeah, everything you can find at pyramidsonmars.com. That's www.pyramidsonmars.com. My music, my guitar lessons, my interviews, myself, my radio show links, everything is at that website, pyramidsonmars.com.
And I'm on Facebook. If anybody wants to talk to me, if there's an experience out there that wants to talk with me, they can reach out.
There's another Nancy Tremaine, which is like an actress. Yours is, I should get your Facebook link.
Nancy,
but we're out of time.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy and Kevin. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you.
Blessings and aloha.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable CNN network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday.